Listen to me before this day ends. Something inside you can shift so deeply that the chains you've carried for years will fall like dust at your feet. Because the moment you detach your heart from fear, from approval, from outcomes, you become a vessel God can fill without limit. And when heaven fills a man or woman who is no longer tied to the earth, everything changes. There comes a time in every life when God whispers, let go, not because He wants to take something away from you, but because He wants to free you from the prison of depending on what was never meant to sustain you. Many people live tightly bound, not by enemies, but by their own emotions, their own expectations, their own need to feel secure in what can vanish tomorrow. But hear this truth: the hands that cling cannot rise, and the heart that grasps cannot hear. Detachment is the courage to say, my peace is not negotiable, my identity is not fragile, my destiny is not controlled by anything outside of God. This is the moment when spiritual authority begins to flow through you like fire. Because as long as you are attached to something, you are afraid to lose it. And whatever you fear to lose becomes your mastiber R. But when you release it, truly release it, you rise above it, and heaven begins to move on your behalf. There is a strength that appears only when you stop begging life to make you whole. There is a confidence that emerges only when you stop fighting to prove yourself. There is a purpose that unfolds only when you walk through the world with open hands, knowing that nothing taken from you can touch what God has placed within you. Let your spirit hear this. You do not rise by addition, you rise by release. You grow not by holding on, but by surrendering what was never meant to define you. The greatest battles are not outside you. They are the silent attachments inside your heart that tell you, you must have this to be strong, to be stable, to be whole. Today, let them go. Let go of the fear of being misunderstood. Let go of the weight of proving your worth. Let go of the desire to control what only God can shape. Every release becomes a declaration of faith, a declaration that you trust God more than your emotions, more than your fears, more than your logic, more than your own plans. When you detach your heart from the noise of the world, a divine confidence settles in you, a confidence that says, I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds me. And that is where true power begins. So walk out of this moment with a renewed spirit. Walk out free from the chains of attachment. Walk out unburdened, unshaken, and untouchable, because the one who is no longer rulable by emotions becomes a vessel God Himself lifts, strengthens, and sends with purpose that no force on earth can stop. Everything changes when you let go. Detachment is not indifference, it is liberation. It is the quiet but thunderous moment when you step out of the prison of emotional dependence and breathe the air of spiritual freedom for the first time. Many people misunderstand this truth. They think detachment means coldness, distance, or not caring. But real detachment is the opposite. It means you finally care in the right way. It means you care from a place of strength, not desperate from fullness, not emptiness from identity, not insecurity. When you detach, you don't love less. You love cleanly, freely, without fear gripping your heart. You don't work less, you work with clarity, without pressure crushing your spirit. You don't hope less, you hope courageously, without tying your worth to the outcome. Detachment liberates your soul from the exhausting need to hold everything together. It frees you from believing that your peace depends on someone else's approval, someone else's presence, someone else's validation. It breaks the illusion that your future depends on circumstances lining up perfectly. Detachment whispers a deeper truth into your spirit. You already carry everything you need. You are not a beggar waiting for life to hand you permission to be whole. You are not a prisoner trapped in the emotional storms around you. You are someone created to stand tall in the middle of shifting seasons, anchored by something eternal. Think about how many moments in life are strangled by attachment. People cling to relationships not because love is alive, but because fear is alive. They cling to positions not because purpose is calling, but because insecurity is screaming. They cling to opinions, to outcomes, to control, not realizing that the tighter they hold, the more life slips through their fingers. And inside them, anxiety grows. Pressure grows, confusion grows, because the heart is not designed to carry chains. It is designed to flow, to breathe, to trust. Detachment teaches you to open your hands. And when your hands open, your heart opens. Suddenly you can see clearly. You can hear the quiet direction that has always been available, but was drowned out by the noise of your fears. When you detach, clarity returns, like light breaking through a heavy sky. You discover that much of your exhaustion was not caused by circumstances, it was caused by your attachments to those circumstances. The situation wasn't draining you, your need to control the situation was draining you. The person wasn't hurting you as deeply as your fear of losing them, WBR, as hurting you. The failure wasn't destroying you. Your attachment to a perfect outcome was destroying you. Liberation begins when you stop clinging. You begin to rise when you allow what is temporary to be temporary. You begin to breathe when you let what is passing pass. True detachment is the in-bar or shift, where you say, I am not defined by what remains or what leaves. I am not shaped by what comes or what goes. I stand because I am rooted in something deeper than all of this. And that divine rootedness gives you a new level of confidence. Quiet, powerful, unforced. You no longer live with the fear of loss. Because you no longer tie your identity to what can be lost. You no longer live as a hostage to outcomes, because your worth is not connected to whether things turn out perfectly. This is liberation. This is inner strength. When you master detachment, something remarkable happens. Your love becomes purer. Your decisions become sharper. Your path becomes clearer. You stop living from reaction and start living from intention. You are no longer tossed by emotional waves because your anchor is internal, not external. People notice the difference. They notice the peace. They notice the confidence. They notice the stillness in your eyes that comes from someone who is no longer afraid. The world around you may still shift, but you remain steady. The storms may come, but you carry calm within you. Detachment is not an escape from life, it is the key to living life with power. Itibaras, the art of walking through the world with open hands, trusting that what is meant for you will stay, what is not will fade, and in either case, you will remain whole. It is discovering that freedom begins the moment you stop trying to force life to bend to your will and start trusting that your Debersteini is stronger than anything that tries to control you. When you embrace this truth, fear loses its grip, anxiety loses its authority, pressure loses its weight. You become someone who can love boldly, act decisively, and walk purposefully because nothing owns you. You are free. And a free soul WBR walks with a power that no force on earth can suppress. Emotional detachment creates spiritual clarity because it removes the fog that rises from fear, anxiety, and overthinking. When your heart is tangled in attachments, the voice of your own emotions grows louder than the voice of divine wisdom. You find yourself pulled in many directions one moment, driven by desire, the next by insecurity, one moment convinced, the next full of doubt. You pray, but your prayer is mixed with panic. You seek guidance, but your mind is crowded with noise. Detachment is the quiet rearranging of your inner world, where everything that once demanded your attention loses its power, and what truly matters rises to the top. When you detach, you create space inside your spirit. Space for clarity, space for revelation, space for God to speak without interference. Most people cannot hear divine direction, not because it isn't present, but because their hearts are cluttered with emotional noise. They are listening through fear. They are interpreting through past wounds. They are seeing life through the lens of scarcity. The inner storm becomes so constant that even heaven's whisper is drowned out. But detachment calms the waters. It allows your mind and spirit to settle, making room for a truth that has always been there, but could never get through. There is a clarity that only arrives when you release what you were holding too tightly. Many people cry for answers, but the answer is often blocked by the detach. They refuse to let go of. They seek direction, but cling to their preferred outcome. They ask for peace, but hold on to the situation causing their disturbance. They want healing, but remain attached to the pain. Detachment breaks this cycle. It unclogs the channels of your spirit. It ease your inner space so that guidance can flow naturally without distortion, without resistance, without interruption. Spiritual clarity does not come from thinking harder, it comes from letting go. It appears when the heart is no longer wrestling with fear. Fear creates distortion. It alters perception. It magnifies threats and blinds you to possibility. It closes the door to wisdom, because wisdom cannot enter a heart that is occupied by panic. But when you detach, fear weakens. It loses its influence over your decisions. The noise fades, and your inner ear becomes sensitive to the subtle nudges that once felt distant. You begin to sense direction, not with confusion, but with confidence. You start to see the bigger picture, not because it changed, but because your inner vision cleared. Clarity grows when you detach from outcomes. Often your desire for a specific outcome becomes the barrier to true guidance. When you reattach to a certain path, your mind tries to force everything to fit that path. You interpret signs according to your preference, not according to truth. You filter wisdom through your expectations, but detachment allows you to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It frees your spirit to recognize the right path, even if it's not the one you imagined. This is why spiritual detachment is not passive. It is deeply active. It sharpens your discernment. It strengthens your intuition. It heightens your sensitivity to divine timing. And with this clarity comes peace. A peace that isn't fragile. A peace that does not depend on what is happening around you. A peace that cannot be shaken by circumstances. When you detach emotionally, you no longer need everything around you to be perfect in order to feel calm. Your peace becomes internal, rooted, strong. You carry clarity within you, no matter how loud the world becomes. Detachment also frees you from the chaos of overthinking. Overthinking is often the mind trying to control what your spirit has not released. It is the attempt to solve what you are emotionally attached to. But once you detach the need to overthink dissolves. You stop wrestling with every detail. You stop analyzing every possibility. You stop creating fear-based stories in your mind. Your thoughts become simple, direct, clean. You can make decisions quickly and clearly because your spirit is no longer clouded by motivational storms. With spiritual clarity, your whole posture shifts. You become more aware, more sensitive to truth, more aligned with your deeper purpose. You stop wasting time on what was never meant for you. You stop chasing things that drain you. You stop holding on to situations that block your Groutbar, shh. Instead, you begin to recognize what truly belongs in your life and what does not. And with that recognition comes strength. The strength to walk away, the courage to move forward, the boldness to choose what aligns with your calling. Emotional detachment is not the end of feeling. It is the beginning of seeing. It is the doorway to clarity. It is the pathway to divine insight. And once you taste that clarity, you will never again trade it for the chaos of attachment. True confidence comes from releasing control, because control is an illusion that exhausts the soul. People often believe Tabrati power is found in holding tightly to people, tightly to plans, tightly to outcomes. They convince themselves that if they manage every detail, prevent every mistake, and guard every moment, then life will unfold exactly as they desire. But this endless grasping does not create confidence, it destroys it. It turns life into a battlefield of tension and fear. You wake up tired, you walk through the day tense, you fall asleep anxious, not because life is hard, but because you are trying to hold what was never meant to be held by human hands. Real strength is not the power to control everything around you. It is the freedom to trust even when you cannot see. Releasing control does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you act carelessly. It means you stop carrying the burden of outcomes that were never yours to guarantee. It means you stop measuring your worth by whether every TBR turns out perfectly. You take responsibility for your effort, your character, your direction, but you surrender the results. This surrender is not weakness, it is the deepest form of authority. Because the moment you let go of controlling outcomes, you become unshaken by uncertainty. The unknown no longer intimidates you. Delay no longer discourages you. Setbacks no longer define you. You stop living as a hostage to circumstances, and you step into a confidence that is rooted in something much greater than your own strength. There is a kind of confidence that grows only in released hands. WBR you cling, fear grows. When you trust, courage grows. The tighter you try to control life, the more fragile you become. One unexpected event can shatter you. One disappointment can discourage you. One closed door can make you feel like your entire purpose has collapsed. But when you release TPR role, you develop an inner resilience that cannot be shaken by temporary changes. You begin to rise above circumstances instead of being crushed by them. Confidence built on control is fragile, but confidence built on trust is unbreakable. Releasing control is the moment your soul decides to rest. Maybe and why people don't realize how heavy control really is. It weighs on the mind, the body, the emotions. It comes disguised as responsibility, but in truth it is fear wearing a mask. It is fear that says, if I don't manage everything, everything will fall apart. But this belief keeps your heart in a constant state of tension. When you release control, that tension finally breaks. You breathe differently. You think differently. You move differently. Decisions become clearer. Actions become smoother. You operate from a place of calm strength, not frantic fear. This calm is not something you force. It arises naturally when your inner world is no longer burdened by the impossible task of carrying every outcome. There is profound confidence in surrender. It is the confidence of someone who knows that what is meant for them cannot be stolen, that what is aligned with their destiny cannot be blocked or that what is theirs by divine design will arrive in divine timing. When you believe this deeply, you stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop bargaining with life. You learn to walk with steady steps, trusting that every delay carries wisdom, every setback carries refinement, every closed door carries redirection, confidence begins to flow through you like a steady river because you no longer fear the twists and turns of the journey. Releasing control strengthens your identity. When you cling to outcomes, your identity shifts with every success and failure. When things go well, you feel woe-barathi. When things collapse, you feel lost. But once you release the need to control, your identity anchors in something deeper than results. You understand that who you are is not determined by what happens to you, but by how you rise, how you trust, how you walk forward. With this anchor, you become emotionally stable in a way you have never experienced before. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not break you. Success does not distract you. Failure does not define you. You remain the same, rooted, steady, confident, not because life is predictable, but because your heart no longer depends on predictability to be whole. And something extraordinary happens when you release control. Opportunities begin to flow more naturally. Because when your spirit is relaxed, your intuition sharpens. You notice what you used to overlook. You recognize doors that were always there but hidden behind the fog of stress. You move with discernment instead of desperation. People are drawn to the peace you carry. They trust your presence. They listen to your voice. They sense your steadiness. And this creates new paths, new connections, new possibilities. Confidence attracts possibility, and possibility grows where control has been surrendered. Releasing control is not the end of responsibility. It is the beginning of real power. It is the moment when your confidence stops depending on perfect conditions and starts flowing from a deep-rooted assurance that you are guided, supported, and strengthened by something far greater than your own ability. And once you taste this kind of confidence, you never again confuse control with strength. You walk with a quiet boldness, a calm authority, an unshakable trust, knowing that even when you cannot control life, you can always control your spirit. And that is where true confidence begins. Purpose becomes unstoppable when your identity is no longer tied to external circumstances, because your life stops being shaped by what happens around you and begins to be shaped from the inside out. Most people live in reaction. They rise when things go WBLL and fall when things go wrong. Their confidence depends on praise. Their joy depends on outcomes. Their peace depends on stability. This makes their purpose fragile, easily shaken, easily discouraged, easily interrupted. But when you detach your identity from circumstances, you step into a realm, WBR, here. Nothing outside of you can destroy what is unfolding within you. Purpose becomes like a fire. Even if the wind rises, it only burns stronger. Your identity is the foundation upon which your purpose is built. If the foundation is unstable, the purpose collapses. When your identity is tied to your achievements, then a failure will break you. When it is tied to people's approval, one rejection will silence you. When it is tied to comfort, any discomfort will stop you. This is why many people never walk fully into their purpose. They are anchored to the wrong things. They are rooted in temporary soil, but expect to grow into eternal impact. But purpose can only thrive when your identity is anchored in something unchanging, something eternal, something deeper than circumstance. When you no longer look to external things to define you, your inner world becomes powerful. You begin to move differently. You speak with clarity. You act with conviction. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop hesitating. The world may still shift, but you remain steady because your identity is not dependent on the shifting. They are independent of it. This kind OBRF stability is rare, but once it develops, nothing can stop a person who lives from it. Their purpose becomes like a river that keeps flowing no matter what obstacles it encounters. Rocks may fall, but the river finds a path. Barriers may rise, but the river carves through. This is the power of ineba, our rooted purpose. When your identity is no longer tied to circumstances, you stop chasing validation. Purpose does not require applause, it requires alignment. And when you are aligned internally, you no longer need external confirmation. You know who you are. You know why you are here. You know what you carry. People may question you, misunderstand you, underestimate you, but their opinions cannot interrupt a purpose that flows from within. Instead of being fueled by approval, you are fueled by conviction. Instead of being driven by fear, you are driven by clarity. You become a person who does not back down when things get uncomfortable, because your sense of self is not threatened by challenge. This inner grounding builds unstoppable perseverance. When your identity is external, difficulty feels like a personal attack. But when your identity is internal, difficulty becomes AS training. Set BBR acts no longer feel like failures, they feel like refinement. Delays no longer feel like denial, they feel like development. Obstacles no longer feel like opposition, they feel like preparation. And when your interpretation of life changes, your response to life changes. You stop quitting, you stop doubting, you stop shrinking, you move with a certainty that cannot be shaken by changing circumstances. Purpose becomes your compass. Passion becomes your fuel. Vision becomes your anchor. And with this shift, you begin to see opportunities that others overlook. When your identity is external, fear blinds you. But when your identity is rooted internally, purpose opens your eyes. You start noticing connections, ideas, moments, and possibilities that were invisible before. You start stepping into spaces you once felt unworthy of. You stop disqualifying yourself. You stop comparing yourself. You stop holding yourself back. A sense of divine timing awakens within you. You sense when to move, when to wait, when to speak, when to act. Your whole life becomes aligned with a rhythm that does not come from the world, it comes from within your spirit. This is the place where purpose becomes unstoppable. Because when you no longer allow circumstances to define you, circumstances also lose the power to limit you. You are no longer pulled apart by every problem. You are no longer discouraged by every delay. You are no longer shaken by every shift. You walk through storms with steady steps. You MBR decisions with clear intention. You treat adversity as a temporary visitor, not a permanent resident. And you carry a confidence that others cannot easily understand because it is not built on anything they can see. It is built on everything you have discovered within yourself. When identity becomes internal, your purpose flows with purity. It is no longer mixed with fear, ego, or insecurity. You no longer seek to impress, you seek to impact. You no longer cling to comfort, you pursue growth. You no longer chase recognition, you chase transformation. You move because you are called, not because you are pushed. And once you begin living from this place, no circumstance, good or bad, can stop what you are becoming. Purpose becomes unstoppable because the person living that purpose has finally become unshakable. When you put all these truths together, detachment, clarity, surrender, and identity, you begin to see the deeper transformation they produce. You realize that the power you've been searching for was never in trying harder, holding tighter, or controlling more. It was in learning to release. It was in letting your spirit breathe again. When you detach from fear, the heart becomes light. When you detach from outcomes, the mind becomes clear. When you detach from control, confidence rises. When you detach from circumstances, purpose becomes unstoppable. This is the journey of becoming unshakable, where nothing outside you has the authority to dictate the strength within you. Yober. You stop living as a prisoner to emotions, expectations, or instability. Your peace becomes internal. Your confidence becomes spiritual. Your purpose becomes solid. You move through life with a quiet authority, knowing that what is meant for you is already guided, already aligned, already protected. ABR, ND. As you walk this path, something extraordinary awakens within you. The realization that you were never created to cling, you were created to rise, that you were never designed to be carried by circumstances, you were designed to walk in purpose, that your life was never meant to be shaped by fear, EBT was meant to be shaped by revelation, wisdom, and divine strength. So step forward with open hands. Step forward with a grounded heart. Step forward with the kind of calm that comes from releasing what was never meant to define you. When you live from this place, nothing can shake your spirit, break your purpose, or stop your destiny. Because the one who has mastered detachment walks through the world not weakened, but empowered, free, clear, confident, and unstoppable.